All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to begin our media availabilities here at Pocono Raceway in advance of tomorrow's Gander RV 400. We are joined by our most recent race winner, Kevin Harvick, who is driving that very snazzy number 4 Busch Beer Gen X Ford. We will open up to questions for Kevin. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless microphone to you. We'll go here to Bob and then Jordan, over on the far right.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Throughout the year, there's been some talk about restarts and how the leaders are restarting the race. And I'm curious, I mean, how critical are restarts with the package that you have? Has there been more gamesmanship by leaders, and does NASCAR need to do anything?
You know, I think you're probably referring to last week at a certain point. You know, here's the thing. I don't know if it's gamesmanship this year. I mean, any more than last year. I think a lot of it, what it comes down to is we're going to a lot of these racetracks for the first time, and faster and slower, and being off on your restarts and the things that are different compared to what you have last year. I think you have to do some things differently, and sometimes you get in a box that you can't get out of unless you go faster or slower. Second thing is there's a lot of racetracks that we go to. Some cars have first gear, some cars have second gear. You know, and I think, you know, a lot of guys listen and see what the car next to them has for gearing. And if you know that the guy next to you has a first gear, or the guy that's leading the race has first gear and the guy next to him has second gear, the guy with first gear is going to slow it down and the guy in second gear is going to bog. So, you know, I think there's a lot of that going on. So, you know, I think that some of that comes from all the differences in things that we have this year. But there are differences, in especially, you know, when you get to places like this of guys that have first gear and guys that don't.
Go to Jordan.
Two-part question. Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. With multi-car teams and alliances and everything, and drivers being intertwined off of the racetrack with different, you know, things, can you have those disdain among drivers and rivalries like you maybe would have had 15, 20 years ago?
I think you could, you know, you look at other sports, and I think it's, you know, we'll use the Yankees and the Red Sox. Does it seem the same that it was, you know, 15, 20 years ago? No. And, you know, I think a lot of that comes down to, no offense, but to the media, to social media, to guys growing up together and playing together. There's just more of there's more people who know each other, and for us, it's harder to carry a grudge in the garage today than it was 20 years ago, just because of the fact that, you know, if there's something there's a major beef going on, it's a major hassle, and it affects your team, it affects the things that you do, and everybody knows that. So it's best to just move on, have a short memory, and you know, that's the approach that I try to take to it, is to have the shortest memory possible, whether it's a good weekend or a bad weekend, a good moment or a bad moment, and you move on with it. So it's just super hard to carry a grudge and be able to function and not, you know, spend your morning coming in here answering questions about that. That would be what it would be about this morning. You know, if last week was something where you had a moment, and so, you know, that's frustrating and distracting.
Is there a rivalry when you look back on your career that kind of stands out to you? Like, for a long time, there was some bad blood or some hard feelings between you and another driver?
Oh man, I wanted to rip Kyle Busch's head off for a long time, and now it's, you know, I enjoy being around Kyle and racing with Kyle, and the reason I think that is I think for me there's a respect that comes with what he does on the racetrack. So I enjoy beating Kyle. I know Kyle enjoys beating me, and I enjoy racing Kyle. But you know, I also, you know, understand that when it's all said and done, you know, he's going to be one of the greatest that goes through the sport, and Jimmy Johnson is going to be one of the greatest. But I never had a beef with did Jimmy Johnson have a beef with anybody? I don't think so. That's probably why he's won 7 championships. He had this figured out. This grudge thing figured out long before I did. So it's, you know, it's a different world.
Additional, we'll go to Nate down here.
Nate Ryan, ABC Sports. Kevin, NASCAR changed the uncontrolled tire penalty this week, I think because of feedback from you guys and teams. They've applied traction compound here after a lot of talk after the June race. Even though there's no driver's council anymore, I know you expressed your misgivings about how that went kind of last year in terms of its efficacy. Like, is NASCAR listening to you guys more, maybe responding more? Is the dialogue and communication better between drivers and NASCAR now?
Yeah, I think, when you look at the I think the PJ1 is a good example. I think that it's I guess it depends on how far you want to poke your nose into things and from a driver's standpoint, not you, but from a driver's standpoint, and how involved you want to get into the politics of it. I think when it comes to the racing side of it, I think everybody knows that it's in our best interest to find other lanes with the rules and the racing and the way that it is. So it's evolved into putting PJ1 on the racetrack, and it's been very effective at a lot of places. It's been much more consistent and laid down much better than we have done it in the past. And I think as you look at that, it just opens the door to other places. And when we first started, it was a complete disaster of how it was applied and where it was applied and why it was there. So I think that Jay, Fabian, and the garage and everybody has every week he comes over and asks what do you think, how is it, what would you do different, and a lot of times you just have to wait and see how it evolves, and it's just those little pieces. But when you have everybody kind of chiming in and you have NASCAR listening, especially on the PJ1 side of it, it's an evolution, and it just, continues to get better. Obviously, this is the first stab at it here. I think when you get done with the weekend, you'll be able to apply it better and differently next time. And there's a lot that goes to it, and how they put it down and where they put it down is it's a science project, and so, but it's how far out in the corner, should it be tapered into the corner, should it be the second groove, the middle of the first groove? There's just a number of things, and when you get all the drivers involved, and Denny's kind of spearheaded a lot of the PJ1 evolution from the driver's side of it, and it becomes easier when there's one or two guys. He's really the guy that's communicating on that side of it, to try to get things moving forward. And we can just throw out your 2 cents in the group chat, and he can compile all the information from all the different types, because everybody looks at it differently. And when you have a number of guys that are chiming in to throw out their ideas, it evolves quickly. So it's that part's good.
Anything additional for Kevin? Right here in the middle.
Kevin, Bob from Fox 56 here in Wilkes-Barre. What's your mindset coming to Pocono every week now, trying to get that first win here? Do you feel like frustrated, or do you feel like this is the week I'm going to get that win here?
I don't get frustrated. I just want to win. I think we've been in position to win, and I think I said this last week. There's not a race that we go to that we don't think we can win, even though we've never won here. But we've been in position a number of times to win here, and it's just like last week. Finally, that's you'll knock that wall down, and things will go your way, and you'll be on the right side of it as long as you keep the performance where it has been here. And so we've had a lot of things go wrong here over the past several years, and in contention to win races. So if you stay in contention to win races long enough, you will.
Go back to Nate.
Denny said something interesting yesterday, that the way he raced you at New Hampshire was a continuation of the way he's kind of always raced you in your career, and that you guys have always had mutual respect, and that he feels as if, as he put it, that's a deposit toward the future, where if he needs to race more aggressively, he might get, I guess, more leeway in the future. Do you look at it that way? I mean, do you feel like the way Denny has raced you has been fairly clean, and that might help him with you in the future?
I think as you look at it last week, I think everybody was trying to do everything that they could to win a race for their team. I think as you go back to the year before, I wanted to move Kyle out of the way and not wreck him. I think that was done well, and I think Denny tried to do the same thing, and which he should. It was the last lap, and from there, you know, it was both of us just trying to do anything that you had to do to try to win. So you try to race as hard as you can without absolutely dumping a guy, because that just, you know, I mean, it's, you go back to, you know, he and Chase. You know, I'm sure he tried to move him out of the way. I know that was a couple years ago now. But that's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier. It just festers and it dwells, and you talk about it. It's in all the highlights, and so, but, you know, I think when it came down to the playoffs, that's what he thought he had to do to try to put himself in victory lane. And I think, you know, he'd probably do that again and take all that grief and take that chance. So you know, you try to do everything you can for your team, and I think. You know, Denny and I have always raced well together. We've always raced each other hard, but using the front bumper and sides and everything on the last lap, whatever you got to do to win is the way you got to do it.
Anything final for Kevin? All right, Kevin, thanks for joining us. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.